You're listening to the Immortal Icons of Dance podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Johnson. In this season of the podcast, we're honoring two groundbreaking musicals that changed the course of Broadway history, A Chorus Line and Chicago. Both are celebrating their 50th anniversaries this summer. In this special season, we sit down with original cast members from each show to hear their memories from rehearsals and performances, the influence of their legendary mentors Michael Bennett and Bob Fosse, and how they carry those lessons forward in their work today. These are first-hand stories from the artists who lived it and danced it 8 times a week. All month long, I'll be sharing historical content about both shows. Be sure to follow @Immortal Icons of Dance to see vintage photos, behind-the-scenes footage, and excerpts from past interviews. For the full experience, you can visit The Vault on our website, immortaliconsofdance.com/vault. I hope you enjoy this season of interviews and join me in celebrating the legacy of these truly immortal icons of dance. Jessica Lee Goldyn made her Broadway debut as Val in the 2006 Broadway Revival of A Chorus Line. She was later asked to take over the lead role of Cassie during that same production for the final week of the show. Following A Chorus Line, Jessica appeared in the Broadway productions of Finding Neverland, the 2017 Hello, Dolly revival, and Tuck Everlasting. Most recently, she was seen on Broadway in Moulin Rouge the Musical as the first replacement for Nini. She has also performed regionally in productions of Chicago and Sweet Charity. Jessica is also the co-founder of The Source NYC, which gives up-and-coming dancers the access to train with professionals in the Broadway industry. Jessica will be appearing in the one-night-only A Chorus Line 50th anniversary concert at the Schubert Theater this month. I'm so happy to be sitting here with Jessica Lee Goldyn today. She's here to talk with me about her life on the line. Thank you for being here to talk about this incredible show.
I am so excited to be here.
So you really did spend your entire life on the line. Can you start from your very first introduction to A Chorus Line?
My very first introduction to A Chorus Line was at Worth Turrell Studios, which was the studio that I grew up studying theater at when I was 10. And so that was in New Jersey, in Morristown, New Jersey. And that studio was owned by a woman named Caroline Worth and her husband, Brad Tyrell. And they were vaudeville performers. And it was incredible training. I was fortunate enough to do their workshops where they would do different shows. Every spring, they did A Chorus Line. And so I remember being 10 and Caroline letting me be a cut dancer in this thing called A Chorus Line that I had never heard of. And the jazz teacher at Worth Turrell Studios, his name was Louis Villabon, who has a very rich, long history at the show. He's a brilliant Paul. He's worked very closely with Baayork as well as many other alumni and originals. But he was the jazz teacher there. He's from New Jersey. And so he was already a part of the touring productions and had done many versions of the show. And he would come back to the studio and help set pieces of A Chorus Line. And we would do the original opening and the original, or close to the original finale. And so I would watch him. I got to learn the original opening, and I would watch him, work with the older kids. And I remember sitting on the side of the stage when we finally did the show, and I just looked at the line, and I just was like, this is the coolest show. Again, it was really one of the first shows that I was exposed to in musical theater. And around that time is probably the first time that he saw how much passion I had for it. And we started doing private lessons. And he would take me aside and start teaching me more of the original choreography because I could not get enough of it. And probably around this time, he wheeled in a VHS player and put in a video of Donna McKechnie. And I'll never forget watching her for the first time and being, so inspired. And from that moment on, she became one of my greatest inspirations in dance. And so, I kind of got to, it was very special that this was the show that kind of saw me through my life, my teen years. And I got to play different roles. But, I think at 15, 16, I played Cassie for the first time. And learned that original choreography from Louis. Yeah, wild. But, I was a cut dancer. I was Connie, I was Mike as a girl, and,
My favorite is watching you as Mike.
Gosh. Oh my gosh. Mike is a girl and Val, and getting to play Val for the first time there. So yeah, what I loved about it and what I believe in is learning all of the material. When I think forward to doing my first professional job, really, which was the national tour of Fosse. I have always had this in me where that I want to learn everything. And I want to be completely immersed in the show. And I want to learn all the parts, the men's stuff, all of it. I just want to be present the whole time. And I did that on the Fosse tour. I wanted to learn every single number, whether I was going to perform it or not. And I feel like that kind of set me up for that way, like fostering that belief, that feeling in me so young of like, we're going to learn it all. And you're going to learn every role and understand how it all fits together. And I'm so grateful to the studio, to Caroline and Brad, and to Louis for that, because what it instilled in me moving forward is invaluable.
How did you make sense of the role of Cassie at 16?
It's tough because at that age, you only, can know what you know in life. And Louis was so good about really making it about the movement. And that is, I think, the first thing that I was able to connect with, even though I was still figuring out the style and really learning how to get Michael Bennett's movement into my body. I think the first way I was able to connect with it is figuring out the reckless abandon of the piece. And that, of course, has grown, as I have grown through the years playing the role. But when it comes to the story and the intention of the piece, I think it was also just, I love to dance. Dance was and is my gift. That is what I think I'm meant to do on this earth. And I felt that from a very young age onward, and definitely at that time. And so I connected with, really all I ever needed was to dance. And so that was where I connected at 15, 16.
Yeah. So after high school, when did you next encounter Cassie?
The next time I encountered Cassie was actually when I got my equity card. So Donna Drake was the original Trisha, and she set the show at the Carousel Dinner Theater, which is no longer there. And Bob Klein cast me as Val in that production, and they had me cover Cassie. I think I was 18. And Catherine Moat Murphy was playing Cassie. And I remember, really, Louis had taught me so much of the meat of the big dance pieces, but it was really my first time learning the show. And there's just so much, anybody who has done the show knows there's so much that goes into the show. And so I was so overwhelmed learning all the Val material and then also learning the Cassie material on top of it. Kind of my first taste of like, oh wow, there's so much more story going on here than just the dance. And really, looking to Catherine and learning so much from her, and Michael Gorman, who was assisting Donna at the time. And I just remember like going home and my ears were bleeding, just with so much information. I think there was a day that I learned the ones at the same time as I learned a really big chunk of Cassie. And I just went home and I cried, so much information. but an incredible experience. And I got to go on for the second act of one performance. It was, again, we're in Akron, Ohio, and Catherine got hurt halfway through the show. And so I went on and did Music in the Mirror. And so that was kind of my first taste really doing it professionally. And it was a whirlwind, And then after that, the next time I did it was the Broadway production. And that was not very long after, I think I was auditioning for the Broadway production when I was 19. And so, yeah, the carousel was a little bit of a crash course, and this is what the show really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you go back and tell me about the story with how Donna McKechnie first became aware of you?
Sure. So Donna McKechnie first became aware that I existed on this planet, I guess. So at the studio that I grew up at, Worth Rural Studios, Caroline Worth had a sister named Penny Worth, and she was also a performer. In fact, she was the standby, I believe it was the standby, for both Cheetah and Gwen in the original Chicago. And so she was good friends with Donna McKechnie. And Caroline and Brad, it makes me emotional talking about them because they were like my second parents. Caroline's no longer with us. They, were so proud of me. I think they also felt kind of like I was, part of their family. She would constantly, pass on to Penny what I was doing. And so when I did Music in the Mirror and did the original choreography, she just passed it along to Penny and said, would you pass this along to Donna and just let her know that the material is living on through the generations. And so Penny took a VHS tape and sent it to Donna McKechnie. And of course, I had no idea this was happening. And then Donna McKechnie, being Donna McKechnie, and as gracious as she is, wrote a beautiful card back to Penny and, said how happy she was to see the choreography living on. And even gave a note saying, Michael Bennett always told her to not show the work. And, so she wanted to tell me to not show the work. And, that's Donna. And I still have that card, and it's framed on my wall. Incredible. And so to get to work with her so many years later, after, having my experience doing that final week in the Broadway production, and then doing productions after that regionally, getting to work with her then for American Dance Machine, I think it was 2011, was one of the, again, greatest moments of my life, because she's one of my greatest idols.
Yeah.
I think there are two people that I connect really strongly with as a performer, and that's Donna McKechnie and Gwen Verdon. I think the reckless abandon and the freedom and the vulnerability that Donna McKechnie has is just everything that I want to portray in my performances, and then the small nuances in storytelling, and of course the Fosse movement, is Gwen Verdon. So, getting to work with her through American Dance Machine really was a moment that felt like it pivoted me in the way that I understood the piece. And, it just absolutely feels like a pinch me moment that, that young 15-year-old dancer that she saw a VHS of got to be in the room with her. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your audition for Val for the 2006 Chorus Line Revival, it was famously captured in the documentary, Every Little Step. What I want to know is, when did you learn that you would also understudy Cassie? Was that part of the original offer? Did that happen later on?
That happened later on. Yeah, it's interesting. I've watched the documentary a couple of times. I watched it most recently probably with my husband, who had never seen it. And it's funny, I think it was such an interesting thing to have your audition captured forever. And so many cameras around. It was my second Broadway audition. I had auditioned for, I think, Wicked before that. And so at 19, I just was so excited to be there. And so much of it, as I watch it, I go, oh my gosh, is that what happened or is that what's said, right? I don't really remember it the way that it's captured. But in that moment where casting says, we're looking at you to cover a few things, and me kind of getting nervous because they were asking me to cover things that I actually had never looked at, roles that I had never looked at. But I think that Cassie's mentioned in that moment, which I think is interesting. But though I never auditioned for it through the casting process. And so the way I remember it, probably after about the first year of the run, because I did the full 2 years of the Broadway Revival, they had many incredible covers, Nadine and Jess Lee Patty, and Lauren Lataro was a cover at a moment. Dilys Croman was a cover. I'm sure I'm forgetting people and I don't mean to, but there were so many covers in the building. And as the show went on, people would leave or people would get hurt or, they started needing more coverage. And so I think it was around the second year that they maybe started rehearsing me to be potentially a cover, but I think it was more like, again, a second cover. I was 21 at the time. And so, so that's kind of when I started covering it in the Broadway production. But it wasn't until the final, I think it was around the 3-month mark. We have to ask John Brolio. I got a call from him. We knew that the show was closing and that Charlotte was not going to be able to do the final week. And I just remember like everyone not being there. All the covers, for some reason, they were gone. And John called me, and it felt really out of the blue, and said, would you be open to playing the role for the final week? Oh my gosh. And I remember just the rush of adrenaline of, this is my absolute dream come true. I did not think this dream would come true at 21. And also the rush of like, your body is ready to, we were closing the show. And so now I was going to be pivoting into this new role with a totally different endurance level and stamina level. And so I just remember thinking, okay, now it's game time. Yeah.
Was it a dance captain or was it Baayork that was rehearsing you?
I think I remember, it's so long ago. Baayork was definitely a part of it. I remember her. She was just incredible and so encouraging. And I remember Michael Gorman a lot. Again, Michael Gorman was a part of her being her associate. And it was interesting because it was kind of the end. So I remember people popping in, but everyone was kind of gone. I remember Bob Avian popping in and taking a peek and signing off. But again, I was aware. I was 21, and I kind of was like, I'm going to give absolutely everything I can to this, to my understanding, and Baayork was just an incredible support. I remember her being kind of the first voice of like, go out there and dance it and go for it. Giving me that permission to dance it the way that I think I inherently feel it in my truth. And so I'm so grateful for her in that. It didn't feel like I was, being guided into doing it a certain way. She let me fly.
Were you ever coached later on by Baayork, or was that the only window of time that you worked with Baayork?
That was the only window of time. I mean, again, I think that there were rehearsals that happened in that second year with myself and other Cassie covers where I was able to work with her on all of the Cassie stuff. But yeah, so my experience with Baayork was really the 2 years of getting to work with her on the Broadway Revival.
Tell me more about working with her. It doesn't have to be Cassie specific. What have you learned from her that you take with you when you're teaching?
Baayork kind of embodies everything that I hope to be. as an artist, as a performer, but also in the way that she has, with so much integrity and passion through so many years, carried on Michael Bennett's work. And in, the company that I have started with my husband, Blake Selesnikar, The Source NYC, which is all about passing on information from the greats and from the source, making sure it's passed down correctly to the next generation. That is absolutely what I want to embody. And also, she's just a fighter, and she stands up for herself and what's right, and dancers, and I share that immense pull to champion dancers, and also, really to make sure that Michael Bennett's work is passed on the right way.
Yeah.
And so, she in every way is an inspiration. And also her energy when she's in the room and you're working with her and learning from her, she burns at 110% all of the time. And that is always how I have been as a dancer, as an artist, as a teacher. I started teaching pretty young, again, around 15, 16 years old. And I've always, tried to lead the room in that regard. And I'm so excited to get in the room with her, in the next couple of weeks, because I know she's still got that fire, and it just ignites every single dancer around her.
Yeah. So now, could you tell me a little bit more about working with Donna, and what is the difference working on similar material or the same material as Baayork and Donna, who they had very different experiences with the same show, even though they came through it at the same time?
It's interesting because I worked with Baayork in my younger years, 2021. I feel like everything was meant to be at the time that it was, so I was so fortunate to get the information from Baayork and feel like I got this unbelievable foundation. So much of what they say, they do echo each other. Working with Donna for American Dance Machine, we worked together for probably, a month, 2 months. And during that time, it felt like therapy sessions. She, having that amount of time to work with her and dive into the material, even the regional productions that I did after the revival, you only get a certain amount of rehearsal time, 2 months, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And so that having this amount of time to work with her, it was the first time that I realized how much of my own life and my own truth was required to do the piece justice. And she would talk to me all of the time. I thought I was going to go in and we were just going to be dancing. I was ready. I was like, oh my gosh, I get to do this dance with Donna McKechnie. And really, she didn't let me sing until we had worked through every line of dialogue and talked about what it meant to her life and where and how it, was created with her and Michael, and then how that can relate to my life. And so, that was the greatest gift. And then doing the same thing with the vocal, and then understanding that the dance is a dialogue. It's a monologue. And I think before that, I had thought of it as this, it's this iconic moment, this dance moment, and it is, in this red dress and, and doing incredible technical things. But at the same time, now learning, okay, where is my story in all of this? I remember her saying, as I would shoot back into the mirror, she would tell me to stop dancing so much, especially in that first dance break, because it's not a moment of, Cassie dancing her 11 o'clock number. It's a moment of feeling so unsure and so unsteady. And this is a woman who has not danced in 2 years. And she hasn't worked. And she's so unsure, but her core is still so strong in the passion and the love and why she's there, and really begging for this job. And so, understanding how the piece and learning from Donna how the piece grows and how really she's not, Cassie isn't back and free until probably around this Swan Lake section where, she starts to fly and find herself again, and going into the Hullabaloo section and feeling like, okay, heat wave, I'm back. That, that rehearsal process with her was life-changing. And again, she was so, I know that you've gotten the chance to interview her, and so she really is such an open person. And she's so vulnerable. And that's what Cassie really requires, is the strength and the vulnerability. And she's so that way in a rehearsal space that it's so easy then to be that way. And so, talking about my life with her, and again, the ups and downs, broken engagements, going through, finding sobriety, hitting rock bottom, finding sobriety, and then putting all of that into the dance. It felt like she would say to me every day, I want you to walk in and take off your armor. And so I would drop my armor, and then it felt like every day was an unpeeling another layer of the onion. That the piece, is not it's not a performance. It's you in the mirror. And there are moments where you're connecting with Zach, but there is no audience there. And it's just that gift that she gave me of the understanding of that level of vulnerability, it really changed everything.
Just in the short time that I had with her, I spoke with her for about an hour and a half. And I remember just thinking, like, it feels like we're the same age. Like, it feels like we're both just 30, and that, like, dancer gypsy mentality of, like, we're talking about different decades, but the same studios and the same people and who we learned from or looked up to or whatever. And, so I just imagine that working with her in that space, that it must have just been so easy, because we look up to her in this way of, like, what she's achieved and who she's worked with, and, this star that we look up to, but she doesn't carry herself in that way at all. It was just like, we're two dancers in a studio. Yeah.
She's so giving. I got to work with her again recently this past year for American Dance Machine. And that time I got to do the piece with Tony Yazbek, which was so special for so many reasons. And in that space, again, Donna also has spanned, like you said, so many generations, and she continues to perform. She's an artist. And she just did the run in Wicked, a year in Wicked. It's unbelievable, and I got to see her in the show. And there really is never this moment of feeling like there's any one way to do it, or that there was her way. She's so gracious in saying yes to making it your own. And just hearing her talk about, we're very different Cassies. And very similar Cassies in a lot of ways, and especially in the storytelling and vulnerability. But in the way that we dance it, she loves that I can do it in an athletic way. Because I grew up an athlete, I grew up a gymnast. That is kind of inherently what I bring to it. And she would say, I love that. Keep doing that. And, again, she's so giving and so supportive, and it floors me to hear the way that she really passes the torch and is excited to do that. Yeah.
We kind of skipped over this, but when did you first meet her, and what kind of an experience was that for you?
The first time I met her was for American Dance Machine, I think. Yeah, it was For American Dance Machine. And I walked into the room across the hall at City Center. And she was sitting in a chair. And I was kind of speechless, you know. What do you say?
Yeah.
And working with her and wanting to bring myself to it, but also absolutely feeling like that little girl who's like, you don't understand how much you mean to me, you know. And
so we've kind of talked about big picture, what you've learned from Baayork and Donna each, and what you carry forward. Is there, like, if you could whittle it down to like one piece of wisdom that each of them gave you?
I really think it's an all-encompassing of everyone that I was able to work with. And you know, again, Donna Drake and Bob Avian and Baayork, Donna McKechnie, Mitzi Hamilton. The thing that has been so clearly passed on to me in the importance of what the show requires is truth, is your honesty and your truth. And being brave enough to take off that armor and show people who you are. You know, that is, it's just what makes the show so special. And I'm so grateful to the originals who were brave enough to tell their story. I still think about that all the time, what that must have been like to tell your story and then have it be a part of the show. And so that is what I'm always striving to do, is to be honest and show those parts of my life, some that I'm proud of and some that I'm not, but it's real and it's raw and it's me. And it's our story as dancers. And that, I think, is the universal message of the show, and that they pass on, is the truth.
I'm very curious to know, what is the most difficult part of Music in the Mirror for you from a technical standpoint?
From a technical standpoint, I would say probably for most Cassies, it's endurance. And when I think about how I used to dance the piece when I was younger, I had a lot more energy. I would just dance it kind of at 110% the whole time, like a freight train. Like I felt like a bull in a pen, and I was like, pull the pin and I go. And I remember getting to the end of the line, and you get to the turn sections, and you know that you're either going to have the steam to really drive it home or you're not. And so I know we're talking about technicals, but I think the thing that has helped me really ride the endurance to the end of the number is understanding the dialogue of the dance and figuring out how to ride that wave so that when I get to heat wave, I still have so much power left to go through the turns and through the end of the dance. A gift that Bob Avian gave me on closing night of the revival, he loved what I did. I think he was surprised, and he loved what I did. And he said, when you do it moving forward, I want you to pick up the tempo for the turns. He said, I really want that, because I can see you have the power, and I want it to go. And that it was important to him that the tempo drive. And so I've tried to continue to do that moving forward. But yeah, I mean, you get to the turns and you're looking at this towel that usually Larry is holding in the wings with a flashlight, and you're seeing, you know, triple, and you're, you know, just the breath that it takes. I believe in audible breath, and so I'll always make sure that I tell sound, turn my mic off the second I stop singing, because of the show that's going to happen in breath work. So yeah, technically I would say it's the endurance and figuring out how to ride that wave.
Yeah, and that's my next question, is like, what is the section where you're like, I can just ride this, like it just feels good on your body, you're not having to push for anything?
Oh, the best feeling that I can say I've ever felt as a dancer dancing anything is Swan Lake into Hullabaloo. It makes me emotional thinking about it. I've never felt more in my element. I've never felt more in my element playing Cassie or doing music in the mirror, but that section specifically. The music, I'm one with the music. I'm one with every instrument. I don't know how Marvin Hamlish created such a brilliant piece. Thank you, Marvin Hamlish. It's every single pore is alive and I'm not thinking. I'm absolutely flying and it's just joy. Yeah.
For those that are listening or who aren't as aware of the choreography, so when you say Swan Lake, Hullabaloo, like kind of describe what is the choreography in that section?
Sure. So after the slow section that happens in front of the mirrors, I call it kind of the build, right? The tempo starts building, and Cassie, as Cassie, you're becoming aware again of that freedom. And then in these moments coming forward, before the big pas-de-chat and sweep that happens, you're starting to lose the doubt and come back into yourself. And so there's this moment, actually right after the build, there's this part in the music that sounds like the Love Boat, like the theme song to the Love Boat. And so the Love Boat turns into Swan Lake, and you do that big sweep around the stage. And then there's this moment, again, that you have in the mirror before that big glissade that then goes into Hullabaloo. And I think it's so cool that section is called Hullabaloo, and that Donna McKechnie's career really, I mean, she did so much before it, but also that, meeting Michael Bennett through Hullabaloo, that section kind of towards the end where she's finding herself again and just coming back into her power is Hullabaloo, back to where it started. Yeah. And so you just completely let go. And then something that we talked about recently doing American Dance Machine is that when she saw me do Heat Wave, she said, I really am understanding something through how you're doing it more than I think I realized before. That moment, you're saying, I am back. And that has always been what I've felt doing it. And so that stretch of just freedom and not caring about eyes, not caring about him, there's not a care in the world about anyone else. It's like I feel like I'm just, in a studio by myself with the lights off, and I'm just soaring. The best feeling in the world. Yeah. It's a living and breathing thing when I've worked with her, because she wants it to be yours as she's passing it on. And that's everything, in keeping it alive for the next generation. Yeah. That it's not exactly what was done in 1975. Yes, the structure is there and the intention is there, but that there are new discoveries and being open to them. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Cassie line or lyric?
The one that hits home now more than ever is, let me wake up in the morning to find I have somewhere exciting to go. That line really hits home when you haven't worked. I know what that is. And look, I'm a dancer. I am a dancer through and through. I have no intention of going and becoming a television star, or sometimes I think people think you're going to be successful in this industry if you can go and star in a show and sing, right, and not dance. Dance is my gift, and it's the thing that it's what I'm meant to do. And so, not having a place to go to, I'm so grateful that I teach. I'm so grateful that I'm in the studio all the time, that I get to be in the studio with people like you and dancers like you and dance. But not having that sense of community and that sense of, I feel like you feel like you lose a piece of yourself if you haven't been in a rehearsal space or haven't been in front of that mirror, or been on stage and had that feeling of the audience reflecting back. We see you, we see your art, we see you. And so that line hits home. And honestly, in my own life, teaching so much, I love that I get to pass it on. It's my other passion. I'm so grateful that that is another gift that has been bestowed upon me. There is, that feeling of this push-pull of, I'm so grateful that it's kept me dancing and really dancing and moving. At 39, soon to be 40, I can still fly, and truthfully, it's because I get to be in the room with people like you and continue to dance as I'm teaching. But there is this feeling of, I love to do this, but also I really want to be on stage. And so the line right before Cassie sings, I really don't want to wait on tables. And what I really don't want to do is teach other people how to do what I should be doing myself. There is some truth in that, but not, I love getting to teach. I really do. But so, a lot of those lines are true to my life.
Yeah. I was wondering how that teaching line went now.
Yeah.
Because I know how you feel in the studio.
Yeah.
And what that was like, having to say it truthfully on stage.
It's an interesting... The last time I did Music in the Mirror for American Dance Machine felt like a whirlwind because I was able to get Tony Asbeck to play Zach. Tony and I met through the Broadway Revival of A Chorus Line. He played Al, I played Val, and we were in a relationship at that time. We were together for about 4.5 years and engaged, and that relationship didn't work out. And so, it has taken many, many years, probably a decade, to time takes time and healing. And now, we're great friends, and that was the first time we were able to take a stab at playing Cassie and Zach together. And so we were telling the truth. We are telling our truth through the scene. And so all of the lines, and especially that line about teaching, there was a new level of honesty that I think you could only ever dream of for the show, for those roles, and for A Chorus Line. And so I'm so excited that he is going to be playing Zach for the 50th anniversary. And the first time that we'll ever get to look at the fight scene will be really for that evening. I'm so I'm just so grateful for the journey that I've had with the show, in the way that it's helped me really learn who I am and how to strip away any of the falsehoods or, what the world puts on you, and be honest and be real. Yeah.
How has and again, we're talking about it in broad terms, but to kind of make it specific, how do you feel that your Cassie has changed over the years? And how do you feel that Cassie has changed you as a performer?
In my earlier years, I used to think of it as a dance first, and now I think of it as an acting piece. The show is so brilliant. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning play, really, with music and dancing. And so my approach has changed in that I'm an actor first. I love what Bob Fosse used to say to his dancers going into any rehearsal. All right, dancers, are we ready? Or all right, actors, are we ready to dance? And that's kind of how I approach almost everything that I perform now, but specifically Music in the Mirror. It's very rare in performing that piece that I'm going to leave the stage and think, everything was fantastic. And in fact, I think when I leave the stage and I feel that way, I probably wasn't able to convey to the audience what I needed to. And so I think going into it now, thinking of it as an acting piece and thinking of it as how vulnerable was I. It's more important that I'm able to express why I'm there and I believe in fighting for this job, and my honesty and vulnerability from scene to song through the dance. And if I'm not on my leg, or a moment doesn't go well, or I didn't sound perfect, those things used to feel like important things. And now was I able to relate to to have the audience relate to me as a human, and not just about dance, but that everyone at some point or another has felt that feeling of, there is a second chance. I've had so many chances in my life. I've lived 9 lives. And I think that is the beauty of the role of Cassie, is that she's made a lot of mistakes and that she is asking for another chance. Mm-hmm. And in the end, that he gives that to her is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I read somewhere a quote from Donna where she said, it's not just dancers that connect with this show, that they were initially surprised at the success of the show, that it wasn't just such an insider show. Mm-hmm. She said, because the line, God, I'm a dancer, it's God, I'm a doctor, God, right. I'm a teacher. Like right. That sentiment, that feeling mm-hmm. of, another chance, that it applies to everyone and anything.
Right, and anything that you're passionate about, yeah. And your dream and what you feel like you are meant to do, mm-hmm. and what makes you feel the most you. Mm-hmm. I think that the show resonates. It resonated then and it resonates now because of the truth. And I think it's still such a special piece, especially now in this generation, in the generation of social media. And I think people feeling pressured to have everything figured out. I know when I speak to young dancers and teaching and in private lessons, in feeling like it can appear easy, life can appear easier, that everyone has it figured out. This piece, hearing everyone down the line step forward and tell their truth, and continue to do that, and finding actors that can continue to relate and then bring their own truth to it, mm-hmm. It will never not be one of the most celebrated shows of all time for that reason, because it is our truth as dancers.
Yeah. What is your proudest moment as Cassie?
My proudest moment as Cassie was getting sober through the show. So I'm celebrating 12 years of sobriety this year. I was doing a production, this was post the revival, and I was doing a production of the show and hitting rock bottom at the same time. And I remember one night on stage doing the show and turning around and looking in the mirror and having absolutely no idea who I was. I felt I was gone. I couldn't see myself in the mirror. There was that joy that I felt as I would dance. Swan Lake was gone. And it was in that moment when I turned around and I looked in the mirror, I thought, oh, this is now we're messing with danger. Now I feel scared of death, honestly. And so I finished that production. Hardly. I missed the final performance, which is not like me. I don't like to miss shows now, but I missed the final performance, and that's when I said, okay, I need help. And I went and I got help, and I got sober and changed my life. And the next show that I did was a chorus line. And so my proudest moment was getting to turn around and not only see myself again, but feel like for the first time, I was actually seeing myself in the mirror. Mm-hmm. That was the best feeling. And it's one that I take with me every single time I do the piece. Mm-hmm. And I think it is with me every time I do Swan Lake. Mm-hmm. Is really what I survived, and how I fought for my life, and how that role and that piece was a part of helping to save me. Mm-hmm. That was my proudest moment.
Mm-hmm. So when I've been doing this research this last month and sharing on Instagram all about a chorus line history, and there's original drafts of Ed Cleven's lyrics, and it's just chicken scratch on paper. And typewriter notes and things crossed off. And I found this one stanza from like an original version of The Music in the Mirror. And when I read it, I just started crying immediately. Give me somebody to dance with, give me somebody to be, let me wake up feeling terribly proud that the girl in the mirror is me.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And I feel like that's
Is
the
that
moment that you got to have.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like that. Yeah, maybe we don't sing these lyrics anymore, but like they're baked in. It's
Yeah.
in the music there.
That's so beautiful. I need you to send that to me.
I will.
That's what I feel all the way through that. I've never heard that before. It's so
Right.
cool that exists.
Isn't that incredible?
And I do feel that as I'm singing, especially the beginning of that piece. Wow. Thank you for that.
Like just that last line, I kept reading it over and over that whole day, feeling incredibly proud that the girl in the mirror is me.
Wow.
My last question is, what does it mean to you to be a part of the 50th anniversary celebration?
Being a part of the 50th anniversary is beyond an honor. I'm so grateful that the celebration is happening. I am so grateful to celebrate the original line, and again, the people that were brave enough to share their stories for this show to exist, and to get to share the stage with them, and so many of the other generations that have existed in the past 50 years on that night. It's an honor because it's been such a big part of my life.
I mean, almost 30 years.
So, really, almost 30 years, and really is the reason I'm in this business. And so, you know, I remember I got to do Hello Dolly on the Schubert stage, and I remember pinching myself that I got to be on that stage because I knew that that's where, you know, a chorus line was, and that those dressing rooms, you know, held that cast, and so many casts that followed. And so, you know, I just hope to do everyone proud in the small piece that I get to be in that evening, to carry the torch forward, you know, for so many of the Cassies that inspired me, and not just, you know, Donna and the incredible Cassies that are going to be taking part in that night, but the Cassies that I grew up idolizing and that inspired me, you know, Caitlin Carter and Lori Gamache, the last Cassie on Broadway, and in the original, and Rhonda Weichert. I mean, I could go on and on about the videos that I would watch, and I'm so honored and grateful that I get to be a part of that lineage and continue to keep it alive and pay it forward to the next generation.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait. I will be there. I'll be sitting center mezz watching, and I'm just so excited. And thank you for being here to share your life on the line with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I love you.
Love you. The Immortal Icons of Dance podcast is written, edited, and produced by me, Lauren Johnson. Our music is written and produced by Shelby Rassler of Jenkins & Rassler, and technical support is provided by Anne-Marie Johnson and Jenny Albrecht. Major support for this season of the podcast was provided by Robert Schulman. I also wish to thank sponsors Zahif, Jenny, Margarita, Natalie, Mary, Liz, Jean, and Denise. If you'd like to support the work being done here by Immortal Icons of Dance, visit immortaliconsofdance.com/donate.